Is Dr. Fu giving you a lot of pressure, so that's why you forget things?
Oh, I forget them all by the way. I don't need any help for that. My name's George Corser. I'm a PhD student at Oakland University.
You're already PhD candidate.
A PhD student, PhD candidate, right? PhD candidate.
Because you already passed the...
Passed the tests and so forth. My research specialization is security, digital security, computer security, particularly network security, particularly vehicle ad hoc network security. And so I'm just learning about the subject, and I want to try some ideas on you guys. It's very relevant to CIT 681 because you're going to have all the topics that I'm covering today. You'll have it in the next homework. It's all PKI, public key infrastructure, authorization, actually authentication, security, and privacy issues. So I'm just going to show you the current status of my research, which is pretty preliminary at this point. So again, the purpose of the presentation is to talk about this PKI. How many of you are familiar with it already? Okay, no, really? Okay, that's good. This class's purpose is to teach you guys this. I also want to raise some general questions regarding security and especially privacy. You might think about this, you know, if you get a new car and it has one of these systems in it, how do you know that it's not causing danger, some kind of security problem, especially how do they know that people aren't tracking you or some other privacy problem? And I want to let you know that I'm just learning this right now. I'm in the beginning stages. I'm not an expert. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I know everything. But I've read some papers on it now, and I think I'm ready to present a couple of things. The first thing that we have to make sure we're all clear about is what is a vehicular ad hoc network? I know all of you guys are familiar with wireless networks. A normal wireless network has devices that connect to an access point. Sometimes they call it an AP or a WAP, wireless access point. And you connect in there like at your house or here at the university, the laptop's connected, and you have whatever that access point has a wired connection. So the slowest part of the link is just between your computer and the wireless access point. Well, in a vehicular ad hoc network, the vehicle might be too far to reach an access point because those things are moving at a pretty fast speed compared to us sitting in our classroom, right? And they might be just too far away. Well, this is how it works. If you have, and let's see if I can get this in better.
It's not similar to the iPhone. These days, iPhone has a Wi-Fi, because they are not really, there is no connection direct because they could really be far away.
Just like your GPS works on a different network from your cell phone, just like that. This network works on a different frequency from cell phone. It's totally different. So in your car, you're going to have your cell phone, which is going to have a GPS on it. You're going to have your car, which is going to have a GPS on it, and then you're going to have a wireless network device that's at a different frequency band than these other ones, with a whole different set of protocols.
This is something new, or this is existing already?
Here's another thing. The technology exists today, but nobody agrees on how it's going to be implemented, particularly in the area of security. Just last year.
Let me partly answer your question. So right now, the industry is working on this. They have standards. I mean, George will introduce the relevant standards related to VANET and security and privacy issues of VANET. I mean, relevant standards.
I understand the security.
And right now, there's a test bed a test bed in Michigan.
Yeah, I understand the security part.
But it's not implemented or deployed yet. But in Europe, they have deployed more than the United States.
Why don't they just use the regular cell phone towers for the same network?
Good question. Good question. And let me get into that right now. So one of the examples of what's different about a cell phone versus a vehicle is your cell phone can be tracked.
Mm-hmm.
Just to take a privacy example, your cell phone can be tracked. You can, I think with the Freedom of Information Act, you can contact your ISP and get where you and get your location tracker. They keep it for a certain number of months.
Yeah.
This can be used in evidence in court. It can be used for any number of reasons where the cell phone was. They want to be able to anonymize cars, though, so that you don't have to know. They can't track your vehicle. That's one of the differences
I
that.
think
Yeah, another.
there is another difference before. I think the speed of the car and the frequency, the
That-
guy who's running,
But-
human, they are really moving in certain speed, so the frequency is like, cannot really.
But that has nothing to do with it because you get signal when you're in the car. That's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
That's the same
Another
thing.
answer is, say, for the iPhone or cell network, I mean, you can, they are the same with the VANET in terms of the application layer. For
Right.
example, online shopping, whatever.
Right.
But below that,
Security
for
layer is
example,
different.
brake.
Yeah.
I mean, when you drive your car, you tap on the brake.
Right.
This signal with your cell phone or iPhone, this signal cannot be transmitted, right?
Right.
But with VANET, when you tap on the VANET on the brake, the VANET network will help you to broadcast this message to your surrounding vehicles. The surrounding vehicles will take action accordingly.
Oh.
Well, I'll show you what
Yeah.
It's like more.
So it's
more
on
sensors.
different kinds of applications. Some applications are common, but some applications very specific.
This is the future, I guess, for self-driving
Here,
cars.
Yeah,
I'll get
so-
into like the
Very good
15th
question.
slide.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The 15th slide will talk about the basic safety message and all this other stuff, but we're getting way ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, let's do the whole
Okay,
thing,
go
then
on.
we'll ask
Let's-
questions at the
yeah.
end.
Get
Yeah.
away, George.
Let's get the idea.
We haven't gone through one slide, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, hold on, hold your breath, guys.
So we all know.
Very good question.
We all know that the vehicle network, you have access to the internet through this wired infrastructure that's roadside units. It could be traffic lights, it could be any number of things. And the roadside unit will hop over to the first vehicle, and if that one's not in range, right, it can hop through some other vehicles that way, and messages can be transferred that way, however many hops you want. And it's on an ad hoc basis, right? It's not a permanent connection. You don't set up a connection there. It's only when it's needed for these type of services. Okay, that's
Yeah,
the
so here
concept.
there are two types of communications. One type is the vehicle-to-vehicle communication. They can talk with each other directly. And another type is vehicle-to-roadside facility, RSU, roadside facility. That can be, connected to the internet,
So
to the
the-
remote server.
So the connection between car and another car, they're using. the-
Wireless links.
Usually ad hoc if they're not within range of an RSU.
In the communication range, depends approximately maybe 100 meters.
300
300.
meters. So, yeah, the 300 meter range.
I got a suggestion.
150.
You go all about your presentation. At the end, we do some questions. How about
That's,
that?
you have to ask her that. I'm not.
Let's just do it that way.
I'm just here to help you guys.
No, no,
I'll
no,
present
no.
what I know. If you want to interrupt, I'm not
No,
the boss.
How
I'll
about
let
that?
you
We'll do
decide.
it that way.
Well,
Oh, that's
you
fine.
don't take it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a question about the slot. Is that like a mesh network? Will B always send the signal to F, even if it has nothing to do with it?
A mesh network would be everybody's connected to everybody.
Right. That's
It's
my
not a
question.
mesh.
It's not a mesh. So
I
the
mean,
signal,
I guess theoretically, if it was close enough, it could be, but
I
it,
guess are the signals routed at each car?
They're
That
broadcast.
depends
Every
on
car
the
is a router.
communication
It's a
range.
broadcast,
Yeah,
or it is a
Yeah.
router.
every car is a router.
Okay. So there is a switch happening between each.
There's a routing.
Right, okay, okay.
No switch.
Routing.
Just forward the
Even more
message
so.
it receives.
Router switch.
Yeah,
They
router
router,
switch.
but they're routing it. I
Yeah.
mean, there's technically a different network on each connection. It's an ad hoc network. Like you and me have a computer, we have our own network with our own thing, and then I connect to Hassam, and now he's going. You guys connect, we have now 3 networks. There's 3 guys, 3 networks. Anyway, but that's the ad hoc thing. I mean, there's reasons why they decided on that. The purpose of this is really to talk about the authentication scheme, not to get into all the details of it, but it's good to know this. So anyway, why are we going to do all this work? Why are we going to spend all this time building up all this infrastructure? The idea is, like Dr. Fu said, to save money and to save lives. We have this basic safety message that can broadcast. It can tell you if you're about to swerve in front of somebody, it'll go, and you can, oh, geez, I didn't see that person. Maybe save some lives. the primary reason they're doing this is because they believe it will. And other applications include traffic congestion management. If you were able to, drive, let's suppose you're driving along an empty road and the light's red. Oh man, I don't want to stop. Well, if there's no other cars, the light will just change green and you just go right through. Right? Saves everybody a bunch of trouble.
Mm-hmm.
So they can do that. And if it's, of course, in the whole city, they could manage the thing, maybe save a fuel for the whole city because of managing the traffic. We all know that it is not managed as well.
And then you have a little bug where two cars are coming to each other and then they both have green.
Well, you know, that's something that has to be obviously tested thoroughly, but traffic congestion management is one of the applications they see as being a big deal. But the one that we're going to talk about mostly today is this location-based service. You know how when you have your cell phone and you can see your car on your cell phone, you're driving along, whatever, and maybe say, you know what, find me a restaurant near here, and it does that. Well, you could do this sort of thing. You could conceivably have a little on your dashboard here. You're low on fuel. Do you want to go to this gas station? Right? I mean, there's a lot of things that could happen, theoretically, when this type of technology exists.
Right.
This right here is an example of the hot thing I was telling you about. The cars will typically go between roughly 30 meters per second at a maximum. And the distance range is 300 meters that it can reach to a wireless access point. So this traffic light might be able to manage its timing based on all the cars that are out, even beyond this basic safety message, if it had an intelligent transportation system, software for that.
Do you know what frequency they're looking at doing this over?
5.9 gigahertz, and right above it and right below it. There's a safety, there's a control channel, where you hop on the control channel, and then there's service channels so that to break up the congestion. It's really a problem. Some of this stuff is not decided yet. It's still being decided, but and like I said, I'm still learning it too. So, but this is the basic idea. Now, just to give you an idea, the AAA in 2008 estimated $164 billion worth of traffic accidents. That's $1,000 per driver a year. Congestion, they estimate, is $430 per driver per year. I don't know how they get those numbers, but it's just to give you a ballpark figure of how much money we're talking about and how many lives we're talking about. 2008, 43,000 people died in traffic accidents. So, you know, this lady from the U.S. Department of Transportation said that this may be an underestimate. Who knows? It could be an overestimate too. Top 10 causes of death in the United States are these: heart disease, cancer, stroke, and all this other stuff. But really, only one of them is something that computer people can do anything about. So, if you want to save lives and you're a computer guy, probably this field is a good field to get into because you can actually save somebody's life. A lot of people, because it's a huge problem, accidents. And then motor vehicle in 2009 was 34,485. They've been going down, probably for other reasons. Poisoning was number one. I thought that was kind of interesting. So bottom line is, if we could produce this type of a system, we might save a little bit of money for each person. If we just did 10%, we might save $100 a year per person out there in auto insurance. More importantly, we might save thousands of lives. That's why we're doing all this. Now, this is what I want you to think about when I'm going through this protocol stack stuff. I'm going to get into some technical things. It's how the communication takes place and also how the security takes place. But keep in the back of your mind, why would anybody want to track a car? Why would they want to do this? Because if you know why they would want to do it, you probably know to what lengths they will go to and what layers of the protocol they would be willing to attack.
Yeah, note here, this is not a physical track. So not follow the car in front of you.
Right, digital
This is
track.
a digital track based on the message information you send to the network. They
I'll show
just
you
track
how
the
it's done.
messages. Then they can figure out where did you go, when, where, how, something like that, right?
Yep, that's right. And then the other
So
one is
we
what?
call it location track.
Right.
Why do they
Nobody
care?
wants anybody to know your.
How come they care more so about cars than mobile phones?
They
Isn't
share
that
the
great?
same
That's a
problem.
great
Mobile
question.
phone also has the similar problem. Location track. You're right.
But they
Same
don't
problem.
have that protection on mobile phones. Why not? It's a great question.
Yeah.
Seems
I
more
mean, with
personal.
iPhone, you are being tracked, right?
Well, here's my deal. If I want to track a car, I buy myself a mobile phone from one of those, pay-as-you-go things. Pay $50, tape it, duct tape it to the inside of the bumper, track the mobile phone, put spyware on the phone. I got better connection than I got through vehicle area networks. This is one of the problems I have with all these technologies, is nobody asks themselves, is there an easier way? Why would they go through all this stuff? It's easy, just duct tape a phone to the bumper inside. Nobody's going to see it. It'll run out of power. Next time you do it, go change the battery. How hard is that? I don't know, but yeah, why don't they have this on mobile phones is a great question. I need to address that in my paper. The other thing is, what other type of mischief might somebody do? There has been talk about having driverless cars. Now, the current state of technology, if we had driverless cars and this technology, you could run a guy off the road, right? Because it's not secure yet. You can just send all these basic safety messages and say, oh, this fleet of cars is coming, but they're not really. You're just sending messages saying they are. Oh, I better swerve out of the way. If it was a driverless car. In the current situation, though, the only thing you might get would be beeps on the dashboard. And if we have a way of getting rid of unnecessary transmissions, we might just even get rid of that. So I don't know. But if you think to yourself, as we're going through this, what other mischief might somebody try to do? Threat models. A threat model is, what kind of attacker might attack you. Normally these papers break it down into global passive, global active, local passive, and local active. Anybody know what a global passive attack threat model might be? Big brother, government, trying to surveil you. They have control of the entire infrastructure. They know where all the access points are. But they don't have the wireless connection. But they can, if you show up over here, they can track you. If you show up over here, okay, I know where he's going. I can do that. It's a global passive attack. They're not changing any information. They're just watching you. Then active attack would be, you know what? Your certificate is revoked. You can't use any of the services that you might want. So they find you and they say, you know what? You're no longer authorized to find out if there's a gas station. That would be changing some information deliberately. Local passive would be somebody who's not, Big Brother, but just somebody by the side of the road. Puts up an antenna, see if you're there. The same thing for active. They might try to do something like run you off the road. So not just what kinds of mischief might be done, but who would want to do this? Government we talked about, maybe ex-spouses, maybe next door neighbors that hate the fact that you put your garbage on their lawn, or whatever it is. Who knows what it is? And then what damage would be possible? If you get any ideas, I don't know the answers to these questions, okay? We're not going to answer them because I don't know the answers to these either. I need to figure this out for the paper, so if you get one, let me know. Right, next. To me, the most obvious threat is if you have somebody like an angry ex-spouse that wants to find out where you are, and they put up an antenna at all of the, or even they park a car or whatever you want, at all of the entrances to Oakland University. So every time your car goes in one of those entrances, they know it. They don't need to be part of the infrastructure. They just put up their own antenna. And then you could track the vehicle within those antennas that you could set up, just locally. But there's an interesting property of vehicular area networks. They use a temporary MAC ID. They constantly change their MAC IDs. It's very unusual. We'll go through this later. Okay. DSRC and WAVE. If you do decide to do a project in VANETs, you're going to run across these terms. Dedicated short-range communications is the range in that 5.9 gigahertz thing I was telling you about earlier. WAVE is the IEEE 802.11p standard, which is especially for vehicles, wireless. It's the physical level of wireless, physical and link layer level for wireless access. It's all still being developed, but that's, the Department of Transportation is supposed to decide this year whether or not this equipment will be required in all new vehicles. So this is coming soon. This isn't just a totally theoretical thing.
How about if you don't want it, can you opt out?
Boy, man, I hope so.
I mean, 5.9 gigahertz in your car, that's a lot of frequency. You know, you're sitting on it.
There's so many laws I want to opt out of in this country, it's funny. But, now this here is the protocol stack for DSRC. And we have the physical layer, which is 802.11p. And we have a MAC sublayer there. And these are basically the, whatever it is, standards that you would, that are relevant to those particular layers.
Link here or network?
Hmm?
Link and
This is all link layer here. Part of it's covered by this standard, part of it's covered by that standard. And here, let me just, there's a thing called a basic service, sorry, a basic safety message. And that's covered in this particular standard called J2735. It's an SAE standard, and it's seems like it's mostly part of the transport layer, but it's part of the application layer. It's explained really well in this paper, and I'm going to give you the source for that. It explains it all in detail. The security services are covered in a different standard called IEEE 1609.2, and it covers all these areas here. It covers both halves of this. You notice that in a normal model, you would have the physical layer, the you know, whatever, the IP layer, and then the TCP layer, and then you have the application layer. Or here we have also the MAC layer. Here you've got two different paths. So this is the old TCP model path here. So you can have IP communications through that. You have a question? Okay.
I've
You
been
look-
asking the end.
Yeah, you go ahead. Everybody else did, so you looked like you
You
had.
can ask question because this figure or this line has a lot of information. Yeah, please ask George.
This slide has a lot of information on it, so.
Yeah, feel free to ask.
It's just general one. It's not just specific to this, but yeah, but ask me and so.
Okay, well,
That would make sense. Then probably my question answered. I will find out.
well, what happens when I transmit? Let's suppose I'm in a car or any network, any wireless network. I'm there, and I want to transmit something. Actually, let's suppose I just want to connect. I haven't even done anything yet. What happens? What do I do first?
what I'm saying.
Well, like for example, let's take it to the TCP/IP
Go
model.
on the boards or
Let's suppose,
sockets.
yeah, let's suppose I'm on a web page. I click on the web page, right? The web page says, okay, you can use this port, right? Here you're going to say, here's your IP address. If you don't have an IP address, it's got to go to DHCP and find it, right? So it's going to give you your IP address, and then it's going to lay down whatever transmission needs to go across. Now, if we're looking at this model in the Ethernet, it's going to take the IP is going to packetize the application datagram, and it's going to put it in a packet, and then it's going to throw it down to Ethernet. Ethernet's going to throw that packet into an Ethernet frame, and it's going to send it across the physical medium, which if it's wireless, it's going to just broadcast it. There has to be rules for that, right? How do you know if it's just somebody playing the radio, or how do you know if it's, you know, the thing you need to do? Well, you have to know the frequency, and you got to know how fast the data is coming, and all this other stuff, right? So it pops across the physical layer, and then the next device, how does it know what this device is and what that device is?
Based on the source IP.
Based on the source,
IP.
well below the
Sorry,
IP.
destination IP.
But suppose IP is thrown into an Ethernet
The
packet.
format, that's right. The format of the packet when it's come is.
The format of the
Yeah,
packet,
yeah.
so the physical layer knows, okay, maybe there's a little byte there saying, okay, this means, this is what kind of packet's coming. Now it grabs this packet, but it's an Ethernet frame. There's no IP address. Right? The IP packet is stuffed inside the Ethernet frame. Right? when my application browser wants something, it says, hey, get me this. And TCP says, okay, I'll give you a port. I don't know what port it is. What do I care? I just want there to be one. Okay, so I have a port. That's going to be your port address. The IP layer says, I don't care about the port. I just want to know your IP address. I'll throw it up to you later, right? So it just packages. It takes that envelope, puts it inside of another envelope, and then this one takes that envelope and says, I don't care what IP address. I'm just going to send it to the default gateway, right? Because you want to get to the internet, go here, whatever that device is.
Right.
The important point is, this computer has an IP address, but it also has a MAC address. The MAC address, whatever that wire is connected to, I think it's a wired one, right? It goes to the default gateway. They both have hardware addresses. They have manufactured, installed
You're
hardware
talking
addresses.
about the Ethernet MAC.
The Ethernet MAC address, is there another kind?
Yeah.
No, there's not another
That means
kind.
that, so every computer,
Ethernet.
every device has a MAC address. We also
Yeah.
call it physical address. It's
Physical
like your
address,
social
yeah.
security number. No matter where you are, you have a
Yeah.
fixed. But this IP address is a logical address,
Right.
right? It's like your home address. If you move, your home address will be changed, right? IP address is your home address. But physical address at the physical layer or at the link layer, we call it physical address or MAC address
It's a link
is
layer
your
address.
social security number of your device.
The important reason is, you'll see when we get into the security for this, it's important because
But that can be
Yeah, but
spoofed too.
this information could be used by the bot guy to track you, right?
that's the idea. Now, if you go on your computer right now and you
Because
type
every
in,
message you sign
and
or
you type in,
receive
and you
should
type
have
in
some
IP
kind of
config,
information.
you can get your IP address. I'm not sure if it gives you your MAC address.
It
But
does.
if you,
does.
if you type in ARP-A, it'll give you the MAC addresses of everybody your computer's connected to.
Right.
The MAC addresses now, not the IP addresses. So you might have, like I said, like if all the three of us were there, I'm connected to you, I'm connected to him, I have that table, that ARP table is right there, cool. The important thing is, while the global passive attacker might be able to get your IP address, how the heck is he gonna ever get your MAC address? How's he ever gonna know that? He's not going to, right? How can he know it? He can't know that. Unless you broadcast it somewhere. If the government wants to know your computer's MAC address, how's it gonna find out?
I mean,
It's not gonna find out through the IP, through TCP IP, unless you have it inside the packet.
and is this beneath the physical layer where they catch?
Nobody cares about the MAC address except for the physical devices connected to them. Nobody cares. What's the point? We don't need that information. But the difference between this and a car is the cars move. So if we can get this hardware address, we can find the car. We don't need to know any of the IP address. I'll show you in a second. Anyway, so we have this physical and MAC address thing is very important. Even though most of the security work I'm about to talk to you about is all on the, I guess you want to call it this transport layer. They invented a totally new transport layer protocol called WSMP. WSMP is a wave, I think it's called a wave service message. Make sure about that. And WSMP, WSM is wave service message, WSMP is wave service message protocol. Make sure I got the right letters. Wave short message, sorry, wave short message. The reason is, these TCP and even UDP is a processor and a space intensive compared to this WSM. So if you're going to be broadcasting thousands of these basic safety messages, they have to be short and fast. So that's why they have this. So this is really an important point here. Is just basically they have this WSMP, which is a new protocol. They have this set security service standard. It's different from other ones. I mean, there's similarities, but it's really unique to vehicles. This message set layer is completely unique to vehicles. The guy that we met is on the standards committee for this. I really, really want to go talk to him now that I've read these papers. Anyway, okay. Wireshark before?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. In Wireshark, you probably use this class, right?
Yeah.
It's gonna be good. Anyway, so you can see the IP packet and the TCP packet. You can even group them together into conversations in Wireshark. Sometimes the MAC address, the source MAC address, is in the packet. So sometimes you can find it, right? Well, in this standard, in IEEE 1609.2, the security standard, they have a non-permanent MAC address. It's very unusual. It's not commonly done to have a non-permanent MAC address. Usually you want it to be permanent. And the reason is because they want to avoid long-term identification. They want to preserve privacy. So they instituted all this extra work just for privacy. So it's important to somebody. The basic safety message, again, is at this layer here. And this is what it looks like. This is the beginning of it. There's actually the WSM has a structure, and within that payload is this message. These vehicles send a basic safety message every 300 milliseconds, every third of a second. The last paper I read said it's every 100 milliseconds. I'm not sure if it's 300 or 100. Any given device could be receiving hundreds of them every second. Crazy, right? Every basic service message has to be authenticated. Because if it's not real, it could be, some kind of attack going on. How might this harm somebody if you sent a fake basic safety message? I'm driving my car. I'm sending every 300 milliseconds. I'm right here. I'm right here. I'm right here. And in it, I'm telling my speed, my position, the direction of the gear that I'm in. I mean, all this stuff is being sent across the network. So I say, I'm going 300 meters per second, and I'm going due south, and I'm at this position, longitude, latitude, and elevation. So I could be falling at 300 meters per second. How might somebody use the fact that this is going on to harm somebody else? No ideas?
Probably send continuous messaging, and probably the other one might meet with an accident. Like, how do you know?
That's the thing. If you were driving, let's suppose you're driving down the road and there's only one other car. Your example here, okay? And all of a sudden, just 5 cars are about to hit you. Well, 5 cars aren't even here. How does that? It's probably spoofing it. If it scares me enough, maybe I'll swerve. I mean, that's one way. You've got to think about these things. We need to come up with more threat models. This temporary ID, they say, ensures privacy, but privacy